Hey guys, welcome back. So we have this set up so that it outputs the user's playlists, but at the moment we're taking this name from this row variable which comes from each row of this query. What we want to do is change this slightly so that it uses a playlist class instead. So we're going to create a playlist class just as we've done with our other classes, and then output it using a playlist getName function or something. The reason we want to create a playlist class is because there will be some other things we want to do with the playlist go further down the line. So when we click on a playlist, for example, if I show you, we want to show the number of songs in it, and we need to get all the song IDs for that playlist. So it'd be good to have a class that we can store these functions in. So let's create a new file, and we'll save this in the includes classes, and then in this directory right here. Let's call this playlist.php with a capital P, playlist.php. Save that. And let's copy and paste from the user class, because this is quite a short class at the moment. So let's copy that and paste the contents into that file. And remember to rename this user to playlist. Don't forget that part. So rename that to playlist. And we don't want a username up here. It's going to be an ID. So we're going to pass in an ID variable. So change this to ID and change this to ID. And then finally change this to ID. So instead of passing a username variable in like we do with the user class, we're passing in an ID, which will be the ID of that playlist, and then we're setting it to this private variable right here. And then this function we can just rename. Instead of get username, we'll just have get name like that. And instead of returning this username, we could just do a query that just returns the name. But if you didn't want to do that, we could just do what we've done in some other classes where we create private variables for each of the column names. So we could create a private and then name like that, and then also private owner like that. And then what other columns were there in the playlist table? We have ID, name, owner, and then date created. But we're not going to use date created at the moment, so we won't do that. We can come back and do that when we use it. And that would mean that we would, instead of passing an ID in here, we would actually pass in the data which comes from the table. And then we could say this ID equals data, square brackets, and then ID like that. And copy and paste this. So two more times. This can be name, and this can just be name like that. And then we can say owner equals data owner. And then if we want to return the name and the owner, we just create separate functions. So let's do that now. So this can be get owner, because we already have get name, and this would be this owner. That's all it does, just return this owner. And I just realized we didn't actually rename this username to return name like that. Okay. So we're going to create one more, that's just for the ID. So paste that below, and this can be get ID like that, and then just return this ID. So this is another way of doing it if you didn't want to do queries in every single one. If you didn't want to do queries, that's fine. You could just pass in the ID like we did before, but that would mean when we did get name, you'd need to do a SQL query to return the name for that playlist with that ID. All right. So the way we have it at the moment means that we create a playlist object like this. We can say playlist equals new playlist, and we pass in con, the connection variable, and then we pass in row, which is our data from the table. And then in here, all we need to do is say playlist arrow get name like that. And then in order to see this work, all we have to do is just add the playlist class to the included files. So go to your included files, and then copy and paste one of those include lines and paste it there, and playlist.php, and close that down. We're done with that. And now if I refresh this page, we should still see the name. If we still see the name, we know it worked, and we do, so we know it worked. Alright, so that's our playlist class. Like I said, at the moment you might think we could have just used the row variable as it was and used row at name, but further down the line we are going to want this class, because we're going to do other functions in here that do more than just return the data for that playlist.